Let's talk about one of your projects, the Tata Consultancy Services campus in Indore, which is planned around strong metrics of performance.
This particular project was a 100-acre piece of land where we had to build 1 million square feet. So we got this piece of land which didn't have a tree on it. It had no context to anything. The place where this campus is in Indore in Madhya Pradesh. And quite close to it, there is a very famous river called the Narmada River. I use that as a sort of metaphor for the design of this campus in terms of planning, in terms of the building. So one of the most important things for me was to make sure that when these young people come out of their buildings, they come into the open environment. I was very careful to make sure that I created this central plaza. We landscaped it in a very careful way. We had water bodies, and I'm happy to tell you that where we created the very shallow water bodies, all the birds have come back. There were no birds when we began the project. Now we have lots of birds who have come back to drink the water there because it's a dry area. And then the way we did not plant roses and tulips and, occidental flowers. We used all the native type of greenery. It looks a little wild in many ways. Then separately, we designed each building very, very carefully. We work with computer modeling. We understand where we are in terms of the sun movement. As you know, positioned as we are, the sun here moves east, southwest. So the southern and western faces are the most, hot. So we control the way we design the fenestrations, what sort of materials we finished for the finishing, how do we maintain in a country like India, which does have a lot of dust and dirt as well. And within the budget, we don't have the Western budgets. We have to work within the budgets that we get. And it's been, what's been so happy and enlightening for us is the videos we get from the young people who are working there. They're sitting in front of their computers because they're all IT engineers. And they say they just love to come out into the spaces. It transports them into another world. And we've done this right in the heart of the campus. So no glass boxes. That's not for India. Yes. How do we design?
You've talked about nature as being central to this idea of sustainability and design. You've talked about well-being and biophilic experience as being central to that. You've talked about biodiversity and a biocentric approach to design through hydrology in this case. And of course, the building as a performing entity through passive strategies rather than, engineered solutions. Let me ask you a different question. And this has to do with how corporate architecture like this and other projects, how they strive to achieve the greater good beyond the question of the occupant or the tenant.
I think it really depends on who heads that particular company at that particular time. I'll be very blunt with you because you have to have corporates where their CEOs are visionaries. Those are the clients that have given us the freedom to design projects like TCS Indore, and also a school which I designed in Baroda called the Nalanda School, which again, we had a client who just came to us with his philosophy and his thoughts that he wanted a Gandhian school. He did not want air conditioning all over the place. What do we do to make children respect their environment, to understand why that space is important to them? How do they themselves look after the space? And we did it in many ways for this client. We created courtyards of different sizes. We created jalis so the air could go through. We used brick in many, many different forms. And we planted a lot of trees around the building to give shade to the building. So the client has to have a visionary head. And companies may not always have that. I have to be lucky to get a project when the head of that corporate or the head of that philanthropic organization is a man or woman with a similar vision to what I have. Then when those two, I wouldn't say collide, but when those two meet, that's when a good, important building results in. I mean, today we had a client this morning who came to us because they went to the Nalanda school and they loved it. And they came to us and they said, this is what we want. We want something like this. We don't want a box. So they know, India, Nirmal, how complex India is, how complicated India is. There's never a single answer to a single question.
Never.